The emergency room lights buzzed overhead as Dr. Adrian Kane sutured the gash on his patient's forehead. It was 2 a.m., his 14th hour on shift, and he was running on coffee and muscle memory. "You're going to be fine," he assured the nervous teenager. "Just a few stitches." "Dr. Kane," a nurse appeared at the door, her expression urgent. "Multi-vehicle accident coming in, ETA 3 minutes. We need you in Trauma 1. Adrian handed off his patient and sprinted down the corridor. This was his life, saving strangers, making life-or-death decisions, never stopping long enough to think about his own existence. The ambulance bay doors exploded open. Paramedics rushed in with a stretcher. "Female, late 20s, internal bleeding suspected." Adrian's world stopped. The woman on the stretcher had auburn hair matted with blood, but he'd recognize that face anywhere. Natalie. His hands started shaking. The woman who'd broken his heart 3 years ago was dying on his table. "Doctor, do you know her?" the head nurse asked sharply. Adrian forced himself back into professional mode. "No, let's move." For the next 2 hours, Adrian fought to save Natalie's life. Every incision, every decision felt like it carried the weight of their entire past. When he finally closed her up, his surgical gown was soaked with sweat. "She's stable," he told the waiting room, where a well-dressed man sat anxiously. "She'll make a full recovery." The man's relief was palpable. "Thank God. I'm Marcus Webb, her fiancé. When can I see her?" Fiancé. The word hit Adrian like a physical blow. Adrian should have transferred Natalie's care to another doctor. Instead, he found himself checking on her every hour, watching her sleep, remembering everything he'd tried to forget. When she finally woke, her green eyes found his immediately. "Adrian." "Hey," he said softly. "You were in an accident, but you're going to be okay." Tears rolled down her cheeks. "I can't believe it's you, after all this time." "Your fiancé is outside. He's been worried." Natalie's face fell. "Marcus, right." She grabbed Adrian's hand before he could leave. "We need to talk." "Nat, you should rest." "I never stopped thinking about you," she whispered. "Not once in 3 years." Adrian pulled his hand away, his heart racing. "You left me. The night before our wedding, you left a note and disappeared. No explanation, no goodbye." "I had to save it." He backed toward the door. "I'm glad you're alive, but we're done, Natalie. We've been done for 3 years." But as he walked away, he knew it was a lie. Seeing her again had torn open every wound he thought had healed. Adrian drove home in a daze, nearly missing his exit. His apartment was dark except for one lamp and the woman waiting on his couch. "You're late," Zara said, standing to greet him. "I was worried." Dr. Zara Osman was everything Adrian needed after Natalie destroyed him. Stable, present, real. They'd been together for 18 months, and she'd slowly helped him remember how to be happy. "Rough night," Adrian said, kissing her forehead. "Multi-car accident." "Well, I have something that might cheer you up." Zara pulled out an envelope, her eyes bright with excitement. "I got the fellowship. Johns Hopkins wants me for their advanced cardiac program." Adrian forced a smile. "That's incredible, Zara. I'm so proud." "There's more." She took his hands. "They have an opening in their ER. It's yours if you want it. We could go together, start fresh in Baltimore. Adrian, we could build a real life there." This was everything he should want. A future with a woman who loved him, who hadn't abandoned him at the altar. "Can I think about it?" he heard himself say. Zara's smile faltered. "Of course, but Adrian, is everything okay? You seem distant." "Just tired." Another lie. He was drowning in them. That night, as Zara slept beside him, Adrian stared at the ceiling and thought about Natalie in her hospital bed, about the pain in her eyes when she saw him, about the 3 years of silence that sat between them like a wall. And he thought about Zara, who deserved better than a man who couldn't stop thinking about his ex. Adrian managed to avoid Natalie for 2 days. Then her chart appeared on his desk with a note, patient requesting to see Dr. Kane specifically. He found her sitting up in bed looking stronger. Marcus wasn't there. "I sent him home," Natalie said before Adrian could ask. "Told him I needed to rest, but really I needed to talk to you alone." "Natalie, I don't think." "I was pregnant," she said abruptly. 3 years ago when I left, I was 12 weeks pregnant and I just found out something was wrong. The baby had a severe genetic disorder. The doctors gave him almost no chance of survival. Adrian sank into the chair beside her bed, the air leaving his lungs. "I couldn't tell you," Natalie continued, tears streaming down her face. "You would have insisted we go through with the wedding, insisted we try to save him. And I couldn't watch you suffer through that. I couldn't make you choose between me and our dying baby." "So you chose for me," Adrian said, his voice hollow. "I went to my sister's in Oregon, had the baby at 23 weeks. He lived for 4 hours." Her voice broke. "I held him while he died, Adrian, and I was alone because I thought I was protecting you." "His name was Julian," she whispered, "after your grandfather." Adrian couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. The woman he'd loved had carried their child, lost their child, grieved alone, all because she thought she was sparing him pain. "After that, I couldn't come back," Natalie said. "I was destroyed. It took me 2 years of therapy to even function. Then I met Marcus. He's kind, stable. He knows about Julian. I thought maybe I could build something new." "Do you love him?" Adrian asked. Natalie looked away. "I care about him deeply." "That's not what I asked." "No," she admitted. "Not like I loved you, not like I still." She stopped herself. "But I'm damaged goods, Adrian, I'm broken, and Marcus accepts that. He doesn't expect me to be whole." Adrian stood, his mind reeling. "You're not broken, Nat, you're wounded, there's a difference." He moved toward the door. "I need time to process this." "Adrian," he turned back, "I'm sorry for all of it." Adrian didn't go home. He drove to the lake where he and Natalie used to watch sunrises, parked, and sat on the hood of his car as dawn broke over the water. His phone buzzed constantly. Zara calling. He couldn't face her yet. Everything he thought he knew was wrong. Natalie hadn't abandoned him out of cruelty or cowardice. She'd made a terrible decision out of love, trying to protect him from pain. And she'd paid for it with 3 years of grief and isolation. But what did that change? She was engaged. He was with Zara. They'd both moved on. Except they hadn't. Not really. His phone rang again. This time it was the hospital. "Dr. Kane, we need you. Dr. Osman collapsed in the parking garage. She's being brought to the ER now." Terror flooded through him. Adrian broke every speed limit getting back to the hospital. Zara was conscious when he burst into her examination room, pale but alert. "I'm okay," she said immediately. "Just stress and low blood sugar. I haven't been sleeping well." "Why didn't you tell me you weren't feeling well?" Because you haven't been here, Adrian. Zara's voice was calm but firm. Not really, not since that accident 2 nights ago. She sat up carefully. Who was in that accident? Who's made you disappear on me? Adrian closed the door, sat down, and told her everything. To her credit, Zara listened without interrupting. When he finished, she was quiet for a long moment. Do you still love her? Zara finally asked. I don't know, maybe. I think part of me never stopped. Zara nodded slowly, tears in her eyes but her voice steady. Thank you for being honest. She took off the promise ring he'd given her 6 months ago and placed it in his palm. I love you, Adrian, but I won't love someone who's in love with someone else. Zara, I'm sorry. Don't be, you didn't do this on purpose. She smiled sadly. You know what's funny? I always felt like I was competing with a ghost. Turns out she wasn't a ghost after all. You deserve better than this, Adrian said. I do, Zara agreed. And so do you, so does Natalie, so go figure out what you really want. But Adrian, don't come back to me as a consolation prize. I won't be anyone's second choice. She walked out with her head high, leaving Adrian holding a ring that suddenly felt like an anchor. Adrian stood outside Natalie's hospital room for 10 minutes before knocking. She was by the window, looking healthier now, ready to be discharged tomorrow. Is Marcus here? Adrian asked. I sent him away, Natalie said. Permanently, told him the truth, that I was marrying him for the wrong reasons. Natalie, I'm not asking you for anything, she said quickly. I know I have no right to, I couldn't marry him while feeling this way about you. It wouldn't be fair to anyone. Adrian moved closer. I broke up with Zara, or she broke up with me. I'm not actually sure which. Natalie's eyes widened. Because of me. Because I wasn't being fair to her either. He sat on the edge of her bed. Nat, I need you to understand something. What you did 3 years ago, leaving, handling everything alone, it was wrong. You should have told me. You should have let me be there for you. I know. Let me finish. It was wrong, but I understand why you did it, and I forgive you. He took her hand. But I can't just pick up where we left off. Too much has happened. We're different people now. Tears spilled down Natalie's cheeks. I understand. I'm not finished, Adrian said, a small smile tugging at his lips. I can't pick up where we left off, but maybe we could start over, go on a first date, get to know who we are now instead of who we were then. Natalie laughed through her tears. You want to date your ex-fiancée. I want to date the woman you've become, the one who survived something impossible and came out the other side, the one who's brave enough to be honest about her scars. He wiped her tears with his thumb. If you're interested. Yes, she breathed. God, yes. Adrian leaned in, stopping just before his lips touched hers. This is going to be complicated. Everything worth having is, Natalie whispered. He kissed her then, soft and tentative, like they were teenagers discovering each other for the first time. And in a way, they were. The coffee shop was crowded on Saturday morning, but Adrian and Natalie had claimed their usual corner table. It had become their ritual, coffee and conversation every weekend, slowly rebuilding what they'd lost. I got something in the mail yesterday, Natalie said, pulling out an envelope. From Johns Hopkins. Adrian's heart sank. Zara's fellowship program. No, the Children's Grief Counseling Center. They want me to lead a support group for parents who have lost Bobbies. Natalie's eyes were bright. I'd be helping people who went through what I did, giving them the support I didn't have. That's amazing, Nat. Are you going to take it? I don't know. It's in Baltimore. They sat in silence for a moment. Baltimore, where Zara had gone 6 months ago, where Adrian had been offered a job he'd turned down to stay here, to give things with Natalie a real chance. There's something else, Natalie said. Marcus sent me a wedding invitation. He's getting married. How do you feel about that? Happy for him, honestly. He deserves someone who can love him completely. She reached across the table, taking Adrian's hand. I saw Zara, actually, last week when I was in Baltimore for the interview. Adrian's head snapped up. What? Why didn't you tell me? Because I needed to do it alone. I needed to apologize to her for how everything happened. Natalie smiled softly. She was gracious about it, told me she's dating someone new, another doctor. She seems happy. And the fellowship. She's thriving, said to tell you she doesn't regret anything, that leaving was the right choice for both of you. Natalie squeezed his hand. She also said something else. She said, tell him I'm glad he found his way back to his person. Everyone deserves that. Adrian felt his throat tighten. She said that. Natalie nodded. 2 women loved you, Adrian. Both of us just wanted you to be happy, even when we went about it in very different ways. And what about you? Adrian asked. Are you happy? Getting there, Natalie said honestly. Some days are harder than others. I still think about Julian, but I'm learning to live with the grief instead of drowning in it. She stood, pulling Adrian up with her. Come on, there's somewhere I want to take you. They drove to a cemetery Adrian had never been to before. Natalie led him to a small grave with a simple headstone, Adrian Kane, too beautiful for earth. I come here every month, Natalie said softly. Talk to him, tell him about his dad. She looked up at Adrian. I thought it was time you met him. Adrian fell to his knees in front of the tiny grave, tears streaming down his face. All the grief he'd never known he had permission to feel came pouring out. Natalie knelt beside him, holding him while he mourned the son he'd never known. I'm sorry I kept him from you, Natalie whispered. That's my biggest regret. We'll come together from now on, Adrian said when he could speak again. He should know both his parents love him. They sat by Julian's grave for an hour, talking, crying, healing. When they finally left, something had shifted between them. They weren't just starting over anymore. They were moving forward together, carrying their past, but not letting it define their future. 1 year later, Adrian stood at the altar of a small chapel, his heart pounding as the doors opened. Natalie walked down the aisle alone, her auburn hair loose over her shoulders, wearing a simple ivory dress. No bridesmaids, no groomsmen, just 2 people who'd found their way back to each other through loss, pain, and ultimately, forgiveness. When she reached him, Adrian lifted her veil and saw his whole world in her eyes. We tried this once before, he whispered. 3rd time's the charm. Natalie smiled through happy tears. 2nd time, but who's counting? The ceremony was short, intimate, just close friends and family. But there was one empty chair in the front row with a framed photo, a tiny baby with a shock of dark hair and his mother's nose. Julian's here with us, Natalie had said when she'd placed it there. Part of our story, part of our family. As they exchanged rings, Adrian thought about the journey that had brought them here. About Zara, who'd loved him enough to let him go. About Natalie, who'd loved him enough to try to protect him, even when it meant destroying herself. About Julian, whose brief life had taught them both about love and loss. "I do," Natalie said, her voice strong and clear. "I do," Adrian echoed. When they kissed, it felt like coming home after a long journey through darkness. Not perfect, not without scars, but real and hard one and worth every moment of pain that had led them here. The support group room at Baltimore Children's Hospital was full of grieving parents. Natalie stood at the front, her hand resting on her rounded belly, 7 months pregnant with a daughter they'd already named Hope. "I know what you're feeling," she told the group. "The guilt, the anger, the unbearable emptiness. I lost my son Julian 4 years ago, and there are still days when the grief hits me so hard I can't breathe." A young mother in the front row was crying silently. Natalie moved to sit beside her. "But I also learned something," Natalie continued. "Grief and joy can coexist. You can honor the child you lost while still building a life worth living. You can love again without forgetting. You can heal without feeling guilty for moving forward." After the session, Adrian met her outside. "How'd it go?" "Hard, important." Natalie leaned into him. "I helped a mom today realize she's not alone. That made everything worth it." As they walked to the car, Natalie pulled out her phone. "Oh, I got a message from Zara. She and her husband just had twins." "That's wonderful," Adrian said sincerely. "We should send something." "Already did. Also invited them to Hope's baby shower." Natalie smiled at Adrian's surprised expression. "What? She was part of our story too, part of what got us here." Adrian pulled Natalie close, his hand on her belly where their daughter kicked and moved. "You know what I realized?" he said. "2 women loved me, and I loved them both, but only one was meant to be my forever." "Heavy stuff, Dr. Kane," Natalie teased. "I have my moments." They drove home through Baltimore streets as the sun set, talking about baby names and nursery colors and all the ordinary, beautiful details of their life together. A life built on loss and found again through forgiveness. A life where the past wasn't erased but integrated, honored, remembered. That night, Adrian stood in the nursery they'd been preparing, looking at the photos on the wall. Their wedding, Julian's headstone, Natalie laughing, and a picture Zara had sent of her twins with a note. "Wishing you all the happiness in the world." 2 women had loved him. One had let him go so he could find his way back to the other. And in the end, all 3 of them had found exactly what they needed. Hope kicked against Natalie's belly as she joined him. "She's going to be a soccer player, I swear." Adrian knelt down, pressing his lips to Natalie's stomach. "Hey, Hope, your dad here. Just wanted to tell you about your big brother Julian and about the 2 amazing women who made sure I'd be the best father I could be for you." As he spoke, Natalie ran her fingers through his hair, and somewhere in the universe, perhaps Julian smiled. Because love, real love, isn't about perfection. It's about finding your way back to each other, no matter how dark the path gets. It's about forgiveness and second chances, and believing that even the most broken things can be made beautiful again. And sometimes, it takes 2 women loving the same man to teach everyone involved what love truly means. Listening with your heart today, if this story made you smile or maybe made your eyes a little wet, please press the like button. It tells YouTube that this video is useful for English learners. You can also share it with a friend who likes simple English stories. And please subscribe to Naila English Story so our small channel can grow. When you subscribe, you are not just a viewer. You are part of this story family. Turn on the bell to meet me again in the next.